Thank you so much for coming in. I'm Rob Barnett, your friendly neighborhood headhunter and the author of Next Job, Best Job. You can find all of what I do at this thing called a website. It's robbarnettmedia.com. That's where all of our stuff lives. But before we start, and in the spirit of giving thanks, I want to thank my book publishers for setting up the honor for me and for mom and dad, who are somewhere up there far above the Zoom cloud. Your boy is about to speak for the New York Public Library, and it's a trip. It's a trip. And thanks to Emil, our senior librarian and the man who made this all possible. I'm very grateful. Here's our flight plan for tonight. We are going to talk just a little bit about my long and winding rockin' career that led to this new journey as a headhunter. Then we're going to talk about the strategies in the book that will get you hired faster and save you time. And then we're going to save time for Q&A. I'm not one of those speakers who goes, oh, we only have time for one question. So I'm going to try and race through this book with a little bit of a faster pace because I want to encourage you to ask questions at the end, and I'll give you the go sign when we do that. If you're on Zoom, we would appreciate it if you email the questions to rob@robbarnettmedia.com. And then, since we're kind of tight on time tonight, I'm the quickest email responder guy in the world. I will write you back directly, I promise. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the strategies that led to this night. We go way, way, way back to college moment. It's Boston University, and within maybe the first 2 weeks, I fell in love, but not with a human being. I fell in love with the radio station, and that was the place that I spent a tremendous amount of time in my college years. It led to internships at great radio stations in Boston, and that led to the first part of my career on the radio and running radio stations in Boston, Texas, and out in California. That segue led me to the television part of my life, and for 12 years, I worked at MTV and VH1 back when they were all music, no reality shows. And that's where I had some of the greatest bosses in my life. That's where I learned so much about how to be a good employee, how to be a good boss, how to have a job that was unbelievably fun. I did that for about 12 years. Then at the first internet bubble, 2000, I had some of my first startup experience learning the good, the bad, and the ugly of startups. I worked in documentary film for a while, and then I had this crazy job. In 2006, when YouTube was a baby, the early YouTube used to show videos of babies and dogs and cats. It was super lo-fi. So in those early days, there were maybe about 100 of us that thought we could start getting major talent from television and film and bring them onto the internet in original series. This was maybe 5 or 6 years before Netflix and Amazon. So we were early, we were pioneers, and that meant it was tough and crazy. But we had a 10-year ride, it was fantastic. The last job for me, working for another company, was at Audible, the audiobook innovator and creator, part of Amazon. I did that for just about a year. I had this incredible experience. They called me into a room one day and said, we're putting you in charge of a project. And in 2017, they put me in charge of a man that you all know who at that time was out of work. That man is Joe Biden. He didn't think that in 2017 he'd ever be in elected office ever again. He had just lost his son, Beau, and he wrote a book called Promise Me, Dad, about turning the pain of loss into purpose. I got a chance to work very closely with him for about 4 months. It was a beautiful experience. And after his book was released, they called me down to HR. And I thought, Here comes the promotion. Here comes the pat on the back. Here comes maybe a bonus for Christmas. But it wasn't that. It was, what we're about to say is not personal, it's just business. We're sorry, we've restructured, we've reorganized this division, and your job has been, here comes the word, eliminated. So I go home with a little bag of severance on one shoulder, and luckily a little bag of Amazon stock on the other shoulder. And I'm home and I'm out of work after that long journey I just described, and I'm sending out resumes and cover letters and living on LinkedIn, and I'm hearing crickets, and I'm getting scared, and I got mouths to feed. So after months of no luck, I grabbed this iPhone, maybe it was an earlier version, and I pressed record, and I made a short video, spontaneous one-take little thing, real sad and mopey looking face, and I said, look, I'm stuck out of work. And if you're in the same boat, then maybe we can put our heads together, and this is funny to say out loud in the years before COVID. I said something like, because we can't just be stuck at home, we'll lose our minds. And I uploaded this video to LinkedIn, which we're going to talk a lot about in a few minutes. LinkedIn and Facebook at about 9 o'clock in the morning. By the time it got to about 9 o'clock at night, I kept obsessively looking at this sad Rob video, and there were 600 comments, lengthy ones, and 16,000 views. And it put me in shock. Most of the comments said things like, oh my God, or many of them said, OMFG, you just said exactly what I'm going through, but would probably not have admitted publicly, thank you. And it was emotional to see all of these people connect. So I woke up the next day at 9 a.m. and I did it again and said, all right, episode 2. This is called Struck a Nerve, let's keep talking. And I woke up each morning making these videos, having no idea where it was leading, but knowing that when you're on a job search and nobody's responding to you, and nobody's writing you back, and nobody's calling, my phone was blowing up. So I thought, I better keep doing this, see where it leads. It led to maybe day 8 or 9 when a guy called me up and said, listen, I've been watching these videos. I met you at MTV 100 years ago. And I run a company now that's looking to hire a chief operating officer. Is that what this is? Is that what you do? Are you a headhunter? And I said, yes. And there was no Zoom, so he didn't see this shocked look on my face. And while he started talking all about his business, I hit the mute button, listening in one ear, but in the other eyes and ear, typing into Google, recruiter, headhunter, fees, commission. I'm trying to hurry up and learn what the heck this is, because he thinks I am one. But there was also a part of my mind that said, well, I'm an old dude. I've hired a lot of people for a long time. Maybe I'd be good at this. And we start talking, it's clicking, it's feeling good. And at the end of the chat, I said, I have to ask you this one question. This is a big company. This is a big role. Give me an estimate of what the base salary would be, because that's how I can tell you what my fee would be. And he said, Rob, I'm not going to lie to you. We cannot spend $1 more than $600,000 for this person. And that's when I started weeping and realizing that from above, this calling landed in my lap, and it instantly started to make sense to me that after that long career that I spoke about, I could go to all the company heads that I used to work for. And now I'm going to use a Texas phrase. Anyone here from Texas? Bless their hearts. The HR department, not always so great when it comes to hiring. Necessary for COVID, necessary for getting bad actors out of a company, necessary for figuring out real estate and remote work and hybrid. But I've always found, and I don't know if you've had this experience, that when you deal with HR departments and you're trying to get hired, you're way too many steps away from the one decision maker. So the first thought that entered my mind that ends up here years later was, we gotta fix that problem. We've gotta fix that problem. And I feel like I'm someone with enough, let's say, chutzpah and contacts to be able to do that and help people. So that's how this started about 5 years ago. That's the crazy origin of it. And now I essentially have 2 jobs. Job 1, I work for companies as an exclusive retained headhunter. It means that if there's a job to fill, no one else but me and my team will fill that job. It also means, and I say it with a smile, that HR can't be involved in our process. I only talk to the hiring manager. And so, let's see, the last 5 people that we placed between May and Labor Day, this is from their first interview with the hiring manager to hired, was 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 12 days, 9 days, and the last lady we placed in a big job at the Hearst Corporation was hired in 8 days from her first interview, which included other interviews with the general manager and the president and all the scary fancy stuff, to hired. Because our company runs the process, we do the reference checks, we extend the offer, we negotiate the deal, and then after the candidate says yes, that's when they meet HR and they go sign the paperwork, because we've done this for a company at lightning speed. So what we're going to do for the next few minutes is I want to walk you through, and for those of you that are on Zoom, here's a promise. If you email me, rob@robbarnettmedia.com, Friday over the weekend, I will email you a digital free copy of this sucker. The beautiful, lovely people in the room have their copies. We're going to sign them at the end after we leave Zoom. But I want to walk you through the tricks and tips and strategies. One of the hardest things to do, and thanks to my publisher for making this all happen, thanks to the amazing Lisa Fitzpatrick. If you're out there, I love you. I found a person, if you're going to write a book, you need Lisa Fitzpatrick. She's called the developmental editor, because this boy never wrote a book before. And I needed someone to teach me how to do 2 things. First, how to write what ended up being about a 60-page proposal to get the thing bought by a real publisher. And then second, really how to organize a book, how to really break it into chapters that would give me what I ultimately wanted to give you, which isn't the great story of my long, lovely life, but a practical book that you could go back to chapter by chapter by chapter and take some ideas that are different than the standard typical ones that are out there for a job search. So I told you that story about being fired after working for Joe Biden at Audible. Sorry, I wasn't fired, I was job eliminated. It always feels better when you get to use those funny euphemisms, right? Well, let's say them. Restructured, downsized, laid off, all these things. But I'm saying it with a smile. In reality, these experiences are extremely painful. And therefore, it took about the first 3 chapters of the book to try to share with you as many ideas as possible about how to work that pain, honestly, and how to manage that pain, and how to do what I learned from our now president, turn it into purpose. So chapter 1 is called, It's Not Just Business, that thing they say to you. Because it's very personal, it's primal. If you lose your salary, you lose your health care. You can also have a deeper loss. It's a spiritual loss. You can lose a sense of self and a sense of purpose. So in the first chapter of the book, we talk about the ultimate F word. It's fear. That's the worst F word there is, because so much negative energy can come into your head the minute your salary and your livelihood is stripped away that it makes it somewhat impossible to do these next chapters of the book, which is stand up, dust it off, and figure out how you want to move forward. So in the second chapter of the book, and yes, I'm a rock and roll freak, so a lot of the chapters are rock and roll oriented. It's called Emotional Rescue. It's a great Rolling Stones song. In the second chapter of the book, I put together just a short example, and I'm obsessed with the number 11. I don't think I said that the book title is Next Job, Best Job, 11 Strategies to Get Hired Now. I'm obsessed with 11 for two reasons. Show of hands, how many people in the room have seen Spinal Tap? Oh, great. I love this audience. So you know why I'm obsessed with 11. But the second reason, the first reason is comedy, the second reason is spiritual. How many people here are obsessed with the 11:11 thing? Yes, I love this room. So at 11:11 a.m. and 11:11 p.m., at least throughout the last 10 or 15 years of my life, friends that I feel spiritually connected with love that. And you get a little emoji, or you get a little something. You get a little, I'm thinking of you, I care about you. So it's meaningful to me. And in the second chapter of the book, we came up with 11, I call them, I don't like that I said it now, but this is what I wrote a couple of years ago, self-care rituals. I'm not going to go through all 11, but I want to talk about one or two that I thought were the most important. And the first is a commandment. The commandment is fire the no police. The no police are these bad cops that get into your head in a job search. And this is what they say. They say, you're too senior, or you're too junior, you're too expensive. And these are dirty code words for we ain't hiring you because you might even be other things that we're not allowed to say. And this is back to chapter 1. It's that fear that they don't want me because of X, Y, and Z. You know, I'm a person of a certain age, and people call me all the time, and in the first couple of moments of a call, a lot of people will actually say out loud, I'm too old, and I stop them and say, no, you cannot say it. You can't say it because there's absolutely nothing about the birth date on your driver's license that you can change, but there are a hell of a lot of other things you can change in the way that you present yourself to a company to outrun the other candidates. So we talked about firing the no police in the second chapter, and then there are some other important things that I think you've got to do when you're stuck like I was, and stuck bad. Another one is to get obsessive about your calendar on your phone. It might be the least sexy app on the phone. It ain't a dating site, it ain't LinkedIn. And when you're out of work, the calendar is largely blank. So what I realized is that the most productive thing you can do on a job search is start putting in work meetings that you need to do first with yourself, and break down step by step the work projects that you've got to do to go attack this mission. And before you know it, the calendar starts to fill up with meetings with other people, not just you. So you're holding the book. In chapter 2 somewhere, there is an hour-by-hour example of how you can schedule the crap out of your own day and not be sitting there waiting for the next email, sitting there waiting for the thing that used to be called a phone call. Last part of the beginning of the book is the third chapter. We call it Rise Up because there's one more step you've got to do before you can get on with the heart of the book, which is your job search. The third chapter is about taking stock, doing an assessment of what went wrong in that last job. 9 times out of 10, there's a statistic, it's the boss. 9 times out of 10, something just went south with your boss. But I think it's equally important before you start your next job search to not just think about what they did wrong, but you got to look inside a little bit and say, you know, I smelt it, I felt it, I knew it. I was secretly sitting there, worried, scared, pissed, you name it. And one of the times I got fired, and I've been fired many times, or other words for it, but I think about this one all the time. This happened a long time ago. I'm certain that I got fired because I had done some little thing, a little thing that the boss didn't like. Back in the days where everybody used to, you know, send out actual paper with all the CCs on it. I was working for a lady that I knew really well. I thought we had a good relationship. And I knew her boss. I knew her boss from way back when. We were great friends. I was loyal to her. I was loyal in my own mind. I was loyal in my actions. But one day I did something real bad. I CC'd the big boss on a note. She didn't like it. And I think that that little offense that I did, which some of you are shaking your head like it was a mistake. It was a mistake. I wasn't doing it maliciously. I wasn't trying to show that I was a cool guy, but it was a mistake. And I think she held a grudge that we never discussed. It never came up, but it lasted to the point where she just didn't like me anymore, didn't trust me, thought that I was trying to play that game, which I swear to you I wasn't, but she thought that. So what it made me realize before you start the next job is you have to think about these little moments where you might have done something that created the rift, and think about how to have what I would call check-ins. You know, a lot of companies are supposed to sit you down once a week, once a year, and give you a real review. But how many of you have worked for companies where they kind of never do it or they forget, right? And you don't get your raise, you don't get a performance review. If you're in a situation like that, you've got to check in. You've got to say, hey, would it be possible for us to sit down for 30 minutes next week? I want to know how I'm doing, right? Because if I had done that, maybe I would have avoided it. So let's move quickly to the heart of the book. Chapter 4, if there's only one thing I can do to help you tonight, it's in chapter 4. Chapter 4 is called Your North Star. And this is what I realized when I started working with hundreds and then thousands of job seekers. I looked at thousands of resumes and LinkedIns. And what I noticed on most of them is that people that were looking for a job were putting multiple job titles on the top of, especially of LinkedIn, and saying what I now have come to simplify as butcher, baker, candlestick maker. And the thinking was, I'm out of work. If I don't get a paycheck soon, I'm gonna lose my frickin' mind. I have baked bread in the past. I can cut meat with the best of them, and I'm not too bad a candlestick maker. I had one of those jobs right out of college. I found that what job seekers do is they think that by putting all three possible jobs out into the world as who you are or who you might be, the thinking that a job seeker has is great. I've tripled my odds. Now there are 3 times as many businesses that might hire me. I realized that by doing that, the bakery doesn't care. The bakery is looking at resumes and LinkedIn's for the master baker. And the one who's diluted it, if that's the right word, I am a college dropout, remember? If you've watered it down, is it diluted? Somebody help me. It's diluted, yeah. You've diluted it by adding these other jobs, then you don't look like the baker they need. So in this 4th chapter of the book, I'm giving you 3 ways to come to the right answer to the biggest question possible. Who am I? Or who am I now? Who do I want to be in my next job? And step one of coming up with this answer is spiritual. It's in your heart. It's the thing you feel the most without thinking. It's the thing you really want the most. It's the thing that you maybe have dreamt about for a long time, but the minute you let it get up into your head, you talk yourself out of it. I'm too this, I'm too that, I don't have this, I don't have that. That answer about what you really want to do might be the single most important thing there is, because if we didn't learn that life is too short in these last couple of years, we might never quite get that lesson. So life is too short to be doing work that you don't want to do, work that you think you've got to do because you're not good enough. So I encourage you to really, really think hard, not think hard, sorry, feel hard in your heart. Feel deeply about what that answer might be. Then step two, you've got to go up to that scary place called your head. And you've got to look into the mirror in this second step, and you've got to ask yourself if there's enough evidence in your own path that you've actually done some really accomplished things that line up well with what it is that you feel you want to do. And then the third and final step is proof. You've got to prove it. And we're going to talk in a minute about these dreaded, painful, antiquated documents called the resume, the LinkedIn, and the cover letter. Because that's the place where a headhunter like me or a hiring manager is going to give you maybe not the 2 seconds of a dating site, but maybe the 30 seconds of judgment on your LinkedIn and on your resume. So the essential thing about coming up with the answer to your North Star is first knowing that you can prove it, and then rewriting all of these documents to do a word that I'll purposely pronounce this way: represent yourself. And that's chapter 5 of the book. I'm not going to take all the time tonight to do it, but I will tell you that now that you've got this, chapter 5, which is called Marketing Yourself, is really a workbook. It's a workbook to take you through the way to redo LinkedIn and the resume, but in a different way. Not in the way that the official resume writers and LinkedIn experts teach. What the resume writers and LinkedIn experts teach is same. Everybody looks like this. They say, and I'll purposely read it in the most boring voice possible: I have 15 years of experience and an award-winning, proven track record of success with a demonstrated ability at, here it comes, ready? Great oral and written communication skills, because I'm an adult. I take every project, guess where? From inception to completion. I see this on every resume. And I think, oh, you mean instead of us paying you to just leave after the first week and not finishing it, you finish it? People say, I deliver every project on budget and on time. And I won't start giving a rowdy, loud applause, but really? So you've got to look at your resume and your LinkedIn and say, if I've got blah, blah on my LinkedIn and resume, then I'm going to get this blah, blah response from the world, which ain't going to get you hired. What we teach in the book is an opportunity for you to rewrite it in a completely different method, a different style, and really come up with the specific bullet points that show the achievements. Instead of saying, I have a proven track record, prove it, right? List the wins in the LinkedIn and the resume. By the way, when I stop my yak, we can do as many questions as we have time for on the specifics of it, because I really don't want to go through all of it here. But I'll end on this about the 5th chapter of the book. I have found in now almost 5 years of putting a whole lot of people into new jobs, excuse me. Don't you love it on the internet when they have all the awful water moments? I've found that one of the real secret weapons is the cover letter. And the cover letter, again, that most people write is me, 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 me. It sounds a lot like the resume. I've done this and I've done that, and I'm award-winning and I'm great and I'm genius. The cover letters that I encourage people to write are not me, me, me. It's them, them, them. The cover letters that get you the best response are the ones that prove to the company that you've done more homework on them than anybody else, that you've got specific call-outs. You're saying, hi, I saw that you got this job posted. Here's why I want to apply, because, and then tell them what it is about what they're doing specifically that spoke to you. Give them responses, give them feedback. Sure, kiss their butt a little, not too much, because that won't look good. And then maybe give them some real insights, some ideas about what you would bring to the table. Oh, and by the way, yeah, I've done a couple things like this and that, but you can see the rest on my resume. Can we talk next Thursday, Friday, or the following Tuesday? These cover letters that are company focused will get you so much further. Chapter 6 is called Find Your Tribe. And that's because one of the worst things about a job search is something that before COVID none of us were used to. Most of us were not, at least I certainly wasn't, which is massive amounts of solitude and aloneness. And it's one of the hardest things to do in a job search. So in the 6th chapter of the book, I recommend a couple of really specific steps that you go through to make sure that you can build a tribe that helps you on this search so that you're not doing it alone. Maybe it's 4 people, maybe it's 5. Yes, some of them might also be out of work, but here's the best couple of people that you can ask to join your tribe. You can ask a couple of people who are currently in big, wonderful, high-paying jobs, the kind of people who don't forget what it's like to be stuck in between jobs again, and just schedule a meeting once a week or once every 2 weeks to just job search as a unit. It helps tremendously. It keeps you accountable to the other people, and it does the most important thing, which is you start sharing contacts. I serve as a volunteer and a board member for a great organization that's called Why Hunger. It's spelled W-H-Y, Why Hunger. Been around for about 50 years. And about 2 weeks ago, we had our annual, do you guys say gala or gala? I have no, which do you say? Gala. I say gala. I'm a gala, not a gala guy. So we had our gala, and we honored a guy that I write about in the book. We honored Kevin Bacon, who's a wonderful humanitarian in addition to being an incredible actor. And I got a chance to meet him and joke with him, because what I say to job seekers all the time is that the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon are 5 degrees too many in a job search. Your number one job is to figure out who the hiring manager is by any means necessary, and then find a person that can help be the rabbi that makes the introduction to that person. We do it as a company, but I want to encourage all of you to realize that, and I've only started saying this in the last few months, and it's been somewhat controversial, but I'm going to say it here tonight. Dramatic pause. Unless you've won the lottery, I don't recommend uploading cold resumes to companies for jobs on LinkedIn. The odds suck. They suck. And if you respect yourself more than throwing your stuff into the ether and hearing back nothing, then I would encourage you, when you see job openings, to not rush and say, oh my God, it's the perfect job, I gotta do it, let me upload my generic stuff. I would say, wait, they just uploaded the job a minute ago. Now, take a day or two to obsessively look through LinkedIn, look through all your contacts, and try to find Kevin Bacon, or at least 2 degrees, right? So that's all about finding a tribe. I'm going to skip quickly past chapter 7. I call it social voodoo. There is absolutely no question that you need to be using social media in a very determined way to get this next best job. And in the book, we go through the best platforms to use and how to use them on a daily basis. I built this entire business out of nothing because I decided that 5 minutes a day at 9 o'clock in the morning, I was gonna, not saying you have to do this, but I decided I was gonna make a video and upload it on LinkedIn at 9 o'clock every morning. And I did it every day for 4.5 years, over 1,000 videos like a psycho, and it built a business. So whether it's video or a post or explaining or showing or telling the work that you do, you've got to build your own professional brand, even if it's just 5 minutes a day, not on every social media platform, but certainly on the 1 or 2 that make the most sense to you. So we've got tips about that in the book. Gonna stop this for questions in just a couple of minutes, but I want to talk about the 8th chapter of the book, because in chapter 8, there's another don't do it anymore. If don't upload cold resumes is one of my new crazy rules. My second one is to stop random surfing job sites and looking at things and saying, am I this, am I that, what about this? Hey honey, do you think we'd move to Idaho? I think it's a waste of your time. So instead of random searching job sites, I've given you a whole new strategy in the 8th chapter of the book. It's about targeting the search by becoming a crazed SWAT ninja spreadsheet superhero and making a list as long as you possibly can of the companies where you would ideally want to work. That's your target list, right? Then in all these other, cells on the Excel spreadsheet, now you're pumping it in with people that you found on LinkedIn or people that you know that work at that company. And then you use a free tool on LinkedIn, costs you nothing. And again, this can take you 5 minutes a day. LinkedIn has something called job alerts. So if I want to work at HBO, then you set up a job alert for HBO. The minute that a real job is happening, they will post that job. And then you will get an email that gives you the job description. So it reverses the whole process of just looking at all these places that you might never want to work at. Chapter 9 is a joke title. The title is The Perfect 30-Minute Interview, because everyone in this room and everyone out there knows there's no such thing as a perfect one. But I've tried to come up with about 20 different ideas about how to have a way better 30-minute interview. And for some weird reason, they're always 30 minutes. So there are 2 horrible mistakes that I always made. And boy, I wish I figured this out when I was a lot younger. First mistake is that I go on and on and on and on and on and on with every answer. I'm taking too long. I finally realized that if an interview is 30 minutes, think of it like a sporting event. Your job is to score as many points as you can possibly score and cover as much ground as you can to win in their mind. So if they asked me one question and I gave the old Rob Barnett 10-minute answer, I've just lost a third of the entire interview because I didn't rehearse and I didn't come up with the one-sentence answer to nail that question. I didn't pre-think about what all these questions were going to be. So you've got to rehearse and you've got to be succinct. And then the next mistake that I always made is I thought that the interview was a place where I could make them fall in love by telling them all the greatest hits that I'd ever done in the past and, regale them with these great stories of me and the Rolling Stones hanging out. When in reality, they don't care. They care about the problems that are happening in the company at that moment that they're interested in bringing you in to solve. So what you've got to do, even if you're asked about something in the past, is give that short, quick answer about the past, but then quickly bring it into the present moment and give them an example of something that you researched, that you did your homework on, that's happening in that company, so that most of the 30 minutes is about them and now, and not, I did this great thing in 1995. 10th chapter of the book, we won't cover it now because I really want to get to your questions, and please just raise your hand and shout them out. The 10th one is about, I call it Close Like a Pro. It's dedicated to my first greatest boss, Steve, may he rest in peace, who taught me how to negotiate. So there's a whole lot of tips in there about how to play that game like a pro, and how to close a deal, and how to create that magic L word, leverage. Because we're all guilty, I think, of giving away a lot of our power when we need the job, we want the job, they're offering the job, we want to get it, but we sell ourselves short. And if you end up losing out on $5,000 that you could have made when they offered you that job, chances are a year from now when you're in the job, they'll say, well, the raises are going to be a little tight this year. It's money you may never get back. So there's a lot of tips in there about doing that. And then 11, back to my favorite number, is called We Can Be Heroes in honor of, say it with me, David Bowie, because chapter 11 is about giving back and about what we said in chapter 6. You got to help other folks who are on this search so that people don't search alone. So I am the easiest guy in the world to find, as I said in the beginning. The website is robbarnettmedia.com. We work one-on-one with folks. It's called sessions, just because I've never liked the word consultant for whatever reason, and I've never liked the word coach. I don't know why. I don't dislike them, but I don't use them. So we have sessions, and we work one-on-one with folks, and we also do all kinds of things to help you. So please go to the website, and if you email me, I'm so easy to find. I really appreciate you guys coming out. It was weird releasing a book in COVID because we never got to do this kind of stuff. And it's an honor to be here, so thank you. Fire away, please. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Please.
I thought you were going to say loser when you said the L.
Yo, leverage, man.
Anyway, I got another few minutes. But
Yeah.
I want to share one thing. Do you know about a guy called Howard Gardner?
Say it again?
Howard Gardner?
No.
So he is a professor at Harvard, a psychology and education professor. A friend of mine introduced me to one of his writings, The 5 Minds of the Future.
5 Minds of the Future. I want to hear this.
So he is known for his research on multiple intelligence. He has like 405 research papers. His resume is like 103 pages. And he talked about 5 minds. The disciplined mind.
Disciplined mind. I'm going to repeat it for the audience because we've got a lot of folks on Zoom. The 5 minds of the future. Disciplined mind.
Synthesizing mind.
Synthesizing mind.
Creative mind.
Creative mind.
Ethical mind.
Ethical mind.
Respectful mind.
Respectful mind. And tell me the author's name again.
Howard Gardner.
Howard Gardner. So Gardner. This sounds like a Christmas gift to ourselves. This sounds great.
I'm telling you, like, read his works.
Yeah.
And yours is very practical because you have that experience. But this guy is also writing from the psychologist, in the education. Read that article.
Thank you for that tip. Yeah.
You'll be amazed.
Thank you very much, and thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right. Happy holiday, man.
I'll leave it to you.
Yeah, please do. Other questions?
Leverage.
Leverage, not a loser. Emil, you can shout them out too. If people in the Zoom, no? Yeah, if people in the Zoom have them, Emil now can help us fire away your questions. So if you have a question on Zoom, we're going to just go for a couple more minutes, but please ask a question. Emil will shout it out to me, and then we'll sign some books at the end. Yes, my friend.
I just wanted to see if you could give people a little perspective on the new salary.
Yes.
That just went into effect in New York City, which I don't know if everybody knows.
Thank you so much for this question.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes, of course. I'm going to repeat the question. This is a great question. I really appreciate you mentioning this. Every one of us looking for a job has just been given a great gift on the 1st of November, 2022. This is true now in New York State. It's about to be true in many other states. Here's the new law, not federal, but by state. A state now must do what I've been doing as a headhunter for years. If you're advertising a new job, you must list the salary range, the real one, of that job, giving the candidate so much power, because you used to have to waste so much time trying to get the interviewers to fall in love with you. Now you've made it past the first interview. You're so excited. Your confidence is up. Now you wait 3 weeks later. You have the second interview. You're rocking it. And then they finally start talking about salary, and you realize it's about $50,000 less than you would ever have agreed to work. So here's my advice, and thank you so much for bringing this into the talk tonight. If you're interviewing for a job that isn't in a state that has this law yet, and you're about 20 minutes into that 30-minute interview, and you don't know, and they haven't said, guess what? Ask. Say, can I interrupt for a second? I just want to ask you a question before we go further, because I would hate to waste your time. This sounds so great. I just want to ask what the range of salary is, because I'll tell you right now if that works for me, and that way we can keep talking. The worst thing they can do is kind of duck the question or whatever, but I promise you that in 2023, you're going to see this start to roll out across many states. It gives you a lot of power. One more thing, and then we'll take the next couple of questions. There are also some laws hitting the books. This is so great, and I'm probably going to get in a little trouble. No, I'll mask what I'm going to tell you so I don't get in trouble. There's another rule that's hitting the books. A lot of companies don't get to ask you about your previous salary. So guess what Rob did? This summer, I got someone a job for $60,000 more than she was making in her previous job. They didn't ask, we didn't tell, and she was perfectly qualified for the job that pays 60 grand more than the company that was short shrifting her, if that's a word. So these are really powerful new tools. Thank you so much for asking that. In the back?
So along the lines of what you were just saying about if you don't know what the range is and you're in the interview, it's kind of opposite of what they've told us to do. You're not supposed to ask till later on.
Yeah.
But I like your method, so you don't waste time.
Yeah.
So you're saying though that somebody, an interviewer, would look at it as like, good, you're not wasting my time.
Yes. Yeah, let me repeat the question for Zoom, and thank you for asking it, because I do agree with you. You're meeting a guy tonight who goes against the rules of the norm. The question was that the rules of the norm say, oh, don't talk about money, right? But I'm back to my favorite phrase, life is too short. Life is too short. So if you ask in a respectful way, I promise you haven't ruined your chances at being hired. Ask in a way that means what we've said. I want to be upfront with you and make sure that this is a right fit. And if you want to get technical, you can say, I know that the rule's now a law in many states, and I'm not sure if your company's following it or not. However, you're not going to not get the job because you asked about the salary range. And I really encourage that being one of the important moments of the 30-minute interview. One more? Go ahead. Follow-up question. This is like the White House. Go. Yeah.
More so about when you're talking about HR, not really going the route of going to HR because you're not getting to the direct.
Right.
So if somebody's using you, is that like cutting out HR and like let's say paying a premium to use your services?
Oh, for me? Oh, so the question was, are you paying a premium if you work with a company like ours to avoid HR? Did I get the question right? Yeah. I want to answer it in two different ways. One, about how we do it, I'll get to in a minute, but I just want to encourage all of you to realize that if you ask a friend to help you get connected at a company where there's an open job that you're interested in, I just want to encourage you to ask that friend specifically, say these words, and can you please do me a favor and not have it sent to HR? It would help me so much if you can send this to the hiring manager. Because as recently as a month or so ago, I went to a company where my friend is the CEO, and I said, hey, John, do me a solid. Jesse's perfect for this job. Can you help? And he says, on it. But then he sent it to HR. And that means Jesse's going to wait 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5. Oh, it's the holidays and all that kind of stuff. So now I've corrected that mistake and encourage all of you too, that if you're asking someone for help, ask in a nice way, Texas way, bless their hearts. Just say, and please don't send it to HR. It would help me so much. Now, how we work, ideally, I didn't get to say this earlier, I get paid, my job is to work for companies, they pay me. My fee is a percentage of your salary, but it doesn't come from you, it comes from the company. That's how we work. So with job seekers, we offer a whole lot of free services. And again, please email me so I can send you guys a whole bunch of links to give you help that costs you nothing. But as I said earlier, on the website, we also have what we call sessions. These are not mandatory, they're optional, where folks can work with us one-on-one and we can help you and run those gatekeepers and get to the folks in charge. One more? Hi.
I wanted to ask you, specifically today in the news, CNN was doing layoffs.
Yeah.
AMC is about to lay off 20% of the workforce. People were laid off at Discovery.
Yes.
There's a lot of layoffs and recession. Do you have any specific advice for job seekers now in this market where the doors just seem closed altogether? I have tried to turn around. I saw a job listing. I tried to do that. I have her connect me to the hiring manager. She came back saying, well, there's a hiring freeze.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, why are they still posting a job?
This is a great question. So for the folks on Zoom, to understand what the question is, if you're reading the news, you're reading, and the question is asked specifically about a lot of media companies, and let's call them tech companies, you are reading a lot of headlines about layoffs. I have a couple of responses to this question. First is that I don't think I've ever met a major corporate merger that was good for the companies, especially for the company that's being acquired. I've been around a long time, and just about every time there's a marriage, they end up kicking out thousands of people, and the people at the top make all this money because they've cut costs. So what that tells you is that this is not a good moment to be applying, and the question for everybody on Zoom is directed to media companies. This is not a good time. I can't sugarcoat it. It's not a good time to be applying to major media companies, especially ones that are in merger mode. It's not. But here's the happy news, and this has been a huge surprise for me because I've spent most of my life in media. In this last year, not all, but some of my biggest clients are the most surprising and unexpected clients I never thought I'd be working for. I'll give them two names. One name is the wacky, funny name. Ready? Companies that ain't media companies that need media people to come do media. The simple way might be to say brands. Now, if you've read phrases like branded content and branded entertainment, some of us have been talking about this for 15 or 16 years. I just wrote a newsletter about this today that's on LinkedIn. We have two newsletters. You can sign up for both of those. We used to say that branded content and branded entertainment was stuck in the first inning of the world's longest baseball game for about the last 15 years, but not now. Now, day by day, brands are starting to hate their ad agencies. They feel like they're giving too much money away to agencies that are making these things that are like poison to the average human. They're called interruptive ads. No one wants them anymore. So brands are finally, 14, 15 years later, waking up and realizing, hey, maybe we need some of the people that have just been laid off at CNN and HBO and Discovery to come here and not make crappy product placement nonsense that people always mistake for great content. But maybe we need media people to come make great content that really has meaning and depth and care and expertise for our audience. So I'm working for things like, food brands and kitchen appliance companies. I don't know if anybody has Breville in their kitchen, but they make some of the highest end kitchen appliances. They're one of my best new clients, and I'm putting media people there. So I would encourage you to, in this mass layoff freakazoid thing, say maybe it's not Facebook and Amazon and Google and Apple at the moment, but you can open the aperture and start looking at companies. We used to say, why is Red Bull the only brand for years and years and years that had this questionable tasting energy drink, but then they also created an action sports brand, right? So I think you're going to see a lot more of that. We'll take one or two more.
I know, I'm not.
Go ahead.
I just have a question. So I'd love to see you react to the age-old adage of it's not what you know, it's who you know. I'm curious what you think.
The question is, it's not what you know, it's who you know. I would definitely say it's got to be both. It's got to be both. What's the new cliche? I love it, but I might not be getting the words right. Show the receipts. You know that one? Everybody keeps saying that. Like, you got to show the receipts, right? Is that the close to the phrase, right? I like it because it means back to the way you're presenting yourself and selling yourself on a resume and a cover letter in LinkedIn. You've got to show what you know to that company. You've got to show your expertise. But then, as we've been saying in a couple of different ways tonight, you got to play the Kevin Bacon game. And you got to get over the fear of asking friends for help. And you don't have to dance around it. You don't have to say, how are the kids? How was Thanksgiving? Just cut right to the chase and say, dude, there's this amazing job open at insert name of company here. Can you do me a solid and find out who the hiring manager is and possibly hook me up? Be really direct, be really transactional. Go for it. So it's who you know, but it's what you know. Question?
I want to compliment you on a book a little bit. And the reason why is because you started out in the emotional content of losing a job or not having a job, that it has on the impact it has on the person.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Then you go into basically how to get your life back or get back on the right track. So I just want to compliment you on a job well done.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I won't repeat it, but it's a beautiful compliment. I appreciate you. Yes, please.
On the note of that question, I think there are a lot of people who have been laid off. Do you have any tips on just like how to position yourself if that's happened to you?
Great question. The question is how to best position yourself if you've been laid off. There's actually some good news in the answer to this question, because getting back to the question before you, if you're hooked up in one of these mass layoffs by one of these big companies, guess what? That is not on you. That is not on you. So when you're interviewed, back to that magic 30 minutes, and they say, what happened there? The answer is unbelievably succinct. You say, well, it was going well, I loved it. By the way, I accomplished these 3 amazing things, and then all of a sudden, I don't know if you read this, but come Christmas, they laid off 2,000 people. You know, one of the best times I ever got fired, of the many, they called me in and they said, it's not personal, it's just business, and it's you and 199 other people. So I got to walk out with a little less horror, a little less shame, a little less pain. I was still shit out of luck. But if you're caught up in a big a big layoff like that, it's not on you. Next question.
I want to say one other thing about that.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of you listen to Kara Swisher's podcast.
Oh, she's great.
A couple of weeks ago, when all the Meta layoffs happened, and a bunch of big tech companies had layoffs all within like a week of each other, and she said the last time there was kind of a tech bubble is when all of the innovation happened. And so her, you know, these big companies are downsizing, but she thinks that what's going to happen is all those people, and I can actually know someone personally who worked for Meta who was laid off by a high-ranking marketing job. But all those people now have all of that experience, and something else will come from those people who are now not working with those
So for our
small, other new companies that
Yeah.
I've never thought of before, but like Google, you know, Twitter, all of these companies came out of that time.
Thank you. So for everybody in Zoom land, more of a comment than a question, but another positive and great way of looking at it. The reporter, journalist, there still are a few in this world, is called Kara Swisher. And you're saying that she's just written a piece about...
No, it was on her podcast.
Sorry, a podcast. What's a podcast? Sorry. Podcast, I never heard of that. On Kara's podcast, she's talking about the fact that all these layoffs, especially from tech companies with tech geniuses, are going to innovate and create new tech platforms. Emil, before we close it out, are there any people on Zoom? You want to shout out a couple of Zoom questions?
So, for when you might not have enough proof for the ideal job you want to go after, what's the best way to show the value of transferable skills?
Thank you so much. Who asked the question? Is the person's name out there? No worries if not. So the question...
Carney? It's more like a nickname.
No worries. The question is, back to your North Star, thing 1, your heart, thing 2, your head, thing 3, proving it. This is a great question. What if you don't have enough proof in your background that you've done the work that you really want to do in your boom boom machine? So here's my advice. It's the simplest theory I've ever come up with the simplest name. I call it the straight line theory. When I worked at MTV for a long time, I'd interview hundreds, maybe more than hundreds of people. And you know, MTV on the outside world is a thing, right? It's an entity. But on the inside world, just like all companies, it's made of little small divisions of 5 or 6 people who do one little thing. So if in your heart you know you want to do something where you don't have enough experience yet, I want to encourage you to invest in yourself, to bet on yourself, and start walking in a straight line to a job that might have a little bit lower of a title than you ideally want and even think you deserve. It might have a little bit less money than you want and think you deserve. But if you keep walking straight in that line, you'll start getting the proof and experience that you're missing on your LinkedIn and resume. So it means take a little less. The second thing, real quick, is something that we talk about called hang a shingle. I hung the silliest name shingle ever. Rob Barnett Media. I pulled it out of nowhere. But you can do the same thing. If you're out of work and you've got this thing that people are always worried about, which is a gap on your resume, Create a company, call it LB3 Inc. or whatever you want to call it. No one's going to say it isn't because it's yours. And then underneath that company, I don't know if you're watching Mike, but Mike is my best friend. And Mike and I had a great conversation about a music series that we would ideally want to do in Detroit. My mother, up there watching in Heaven Zoom, taught me to never lie. So I'm about to not lie. On the top of my resume, I could say, Rob Barnett Media, currently developing music streaming series in Detroit, because it's true. And that's the way to try to help that proof problem. Because if there's just a bunch of nothing on the resume, no one will take you seriously. Let's try to squeeze in another one or two, because I know we're good? All right.
We had a couple of tech-related questions, but I think you answered.
Oh yeah, I'm not a tech guy. I want to thank you so much for coming out. It means a lot that you did it in person. Thank you. And thanks to Emil. Thanks to Emil, and thank you, New York Public Library. And please stay, I'll sign the books for you. Good night, everybody.